Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to our webinar discussing today how students benefit from the course integrated industry project. My name is Pascal Mezai from the enrollment and counseling team at SUMAS, the Sustainability Management School. So I'll be your host for today's session. But first, I wanted to give you, before we start on the presentation, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we do here at SUMAS. The school itself is the pioneer in the business education in sustainability and was the first school offering bachelor, master, and MBA in the topic. Today, we have two campuses in Gland, Switzerland, and Milan in Italy. Students can benefit from different work and study environments and different options as well. Another option also available for students for the graduate program would also be the online campus to allow them to study very flexible with a lot of flexibility from anywhere, anytime. There's also obviously a few key points of advantages of studying at SUMAS. First is obviously the diversity in the student body across our campuses. We have over 40 different nationalities with people speaking, for most of them, more than one or two different language, a global reach, as all the campuses and program are offered exclusively in English. So it's a true global program. Small class sizes in all the campuses, allowing for additional elements and increase the engagement between the student and the professor, as well as a practical approach to the experience of the students so they can focus on real business issues at hand. There's also an outstanding faculty, including today's speaker, Eduardo Flores, that are not only educators, but also skilled practitioners and experts in their respective field. And the program also are dedicated to driving students to build their own path into some of the fastest growing careers in business in sustainability. So we're offering today academic program and at undergraduate level with the bachelor in business administration, but also the graduate program in master's, MBA, the doctorate of business administration, the DBA, and the certificate of advanced studies. So we offer mainly across all programs 5 different majors: sustainability management, sustainable fashion management, hospitality, tourism, and sustainable finance digital innovation. For more details, you would find, for example, the bachelor is a 3-year program, so fully in English, offered in all our campuses with specialized modules on the different program we offer. There's also the master program that's offered on campus, 1 year full-time with 2 intake in February and September in 2 different semesters, as well as online across 18 months, up to 3 years, with 4 starts every year in January, April, July, and October. The organization of the studies is virtually the same for the Master of Business Administration, so the MBA, 1 year full-time on campus and a 1.5 years online. There's also the possibility to study more detailed module with the CAS, the Certificate of Advanced Studies, and the duration would range from 6 months, well, from 3 months to a year on a regular basis. And students should ask us about when each of the module would be scheduled for more detailed options for which module they can take. So for the certificate, students choose 3 out of 4 modules of specialization that they decide to study. And then the doctorate is a 3-year program that can be done with different workshops to engage also with the professor and work on a very specific topic that students can research with the help of a faculty, and they would then undertake independent and systematic investigation and around the guidance of the supervisor of their dissertation. So across all this different program, we offer wide diversity and flexibility also in the option that are made available. So today, the main topic of this webinar is going to be about the industry project. So that's why I didn't explain much on this in the introduction, but we'll be discussing how these are a key part of the student experience, as well as explaining how it's structured, how it benefits students in their development. And you'll have also the opportunity to ask questions and get answer from expert and professor. So our speaker today would be Eduardo Flores, who is an expert in sustainable development and strategies, as well as a faculty member at SUMAS, teaching some of our hospitality and tourism management specialization courses. Good afternoon, Eduardo.
Hi, Pascal. Thank you very much for the introduction.
Thank you. So just before we begin, I just wanted to remind you that you can submit your question at any time during the webinar using the Q&A function at the bottom. So if you don't mind, if anyone wants to introduce themselves in the chat, feel free, your organization, which part of the world you're coming from, to give us a sense of who's part of the conversation. So we'll do our best to answer as many during the Q&A, and for those that cannot attend this session live, we'll be happy to answer your question at a later stage. So once again, thank you for joining us. Sit back, relax, and let's just get started. So Eduardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pascal, and welcome everybody to this session. I'm really excited to be here because I'm gonna have the opportunity to present to you some of the work that we have been doing in SUMAS with my classes along the 3 years that I've been in front of the courses in SUMAS. So before I start, I'm going to introduce myself. As Pascal mentioned, my name is Eduardo Flores. I'm originally from Mexico, and I'm a sustainability professional with more than 10 years of experience developing sustainability strategies and applying sustainability certifications, mainly in the hospitality industry. But I've been also working for the private sector and the social sector. I'm an environmental sustainability fellow for the U.S. Department of State in the United States, and I've been teaching sustainability for the past 9 years, 3 years at SUMAS. So what I'm going to present to you today are 3 main examples of interacting with companies while studying at SUMAS. These are 3 examples that I developed inside my courses, and I think they are very relevant for students to know, or prospective students to know, what are the opportunities that SUMAS provide, being not only in campus, but also online due to the connections and the networking that not only the faculty, but students can actually create while studying at SUMAS. So the 3 examples that I'm going to show you today are the work that we have done with the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in Geneva. Also an example of how developing a network of businesses at the local level to do consultation in sustainability. And the 3rd example is the most recent that we just finished 2 weeks ago, is the work that we have done with Kempinski Hotel's headquarters based here in Geneva, but it was conducted online. So the opportunities are endless. And I chose these 3 examples in a way to show you the variety of different ways that we can engage through companies, global companies at their own facilities, but also the opportunities that we provide at SUMAS with engaging and during your online studies if you decide to do so. So I'm going to run my first example, but before that, I want to present to you with the projects of the objectives. All of these exercises that we do at class have mainly 3 objectives. One is to gain experience from real-life projects. We want students to gain that experience in the practical manner, as practical as possible. But also we want to expose them to the real players in the sustainability field. We want them to create networks and to get a real sense of what is it interacting with real clients. Also, we want to deliver real impact while learning. It is true that theoretical frameworks are important, but also practical activities are very important to not only to implement that theory, but also to create a real sense of impact that you can deliver while studying at SUMAS, as I mentioned. All right, so the first example is the work that we have done with the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in Geneva. This was an exercise, an academic exercise, as I mentioned, that took place during the Sustainable Hospitality Management course in 2021, right after the pandemic hit. So this was a group assignment, and the idea for us was a partnership with the property, with the Mandarin Oriental in Geneva, to visit the property, to work with the team, and to get engaged with the operational team and what were the challenges and opportunities that they see as real implementators of the sustainability strategies, that they could see that we can help them to improve. Also receiving inputs from management team, and after that, create an analysis of what were the, not only the strengths, but also the opportunities that our students could see in terms of the proposing improvement for the sustainability strategy being operated at the local level. As I mentioned, this was an exercise we wanted to see how better integrate and communicate sustainability practices into their operations. The team in the Mandarin Oriental were very, let's say, interested in getting to know what were the challenges that the operational team were facing to actually implement those strategies, but appropriate those strategies. So it was a multi-stakeholder exercise between the students, the school, and the Mandarin Oriental. What we did in this case is that we visited the facilities. They show us all around the rooms, the equipments, the sustainability strategies that they were implementing. We went to the laundry, the kitchen. They gave us a 3 hours visit. We asked questions. We really tried to understand what were the characteristics of the sustainability strategy, not only in paper, but actually translating those papers into actions. And students had the opportunity to go back a couple of more times and ask questions and conduct assessments in the topics that they felt interested more. One important aspect, at least in my courses, is that I provide with the liberty to students to choose their own topics based, or as long as they're framed in the topics that we should cover over the course. But students normally, what they do is that they develop an analysis in many different topics. They were so engaged that they started doing their own analysis in terms of energy consumption, in terms of water consumption, waste management, also in terms of communications. And they developed a full array of different analysis that they saw. It could be, it could translate into opportunities for the management team to improve their sustainability practices. Students, the idea with these projects is that students move from the analytical point of view to actually recommend strategies that are feasible for the management team, especially with such large corporations or brands that they have several internal policies and regulations to take care of. So it is important for the students to propose something that is actually doable for the management team at the local level. So they came up with a lot of strategies. I'm presenting you just a brief snapshot of the type of work that they did, creating and building and crafting those strategies, not only from the desk, but actually talking to people, talking to the housekeeping team or the waste management team, etc. They developed a report, and this report was presented in front of the management team. We did a really interesting presentation in their facilities, and the management team was highly announced. And they were really happy with the strategies, with the work that we have done. And actually, one of the main successful stories that I can always present related to this project is that one of the students actually got hired in this property after we conducted this exercise because they were very pleased with the work that students were done. So as you see, there is a lot of potential not only to learn, but actually engage with the stakeholders and bringing up relationships that can last longer than the actual academic project. The second exercise that I would like to talk to you today is about another modality that we created within the class of managing facilities, water and energy. It was conducted in 2022, last spring. And this, for me, was very interesting project because it was an individual assignment and students had to look for a local business to work with. Unlike the first example that I show you, where we as faculty came up with a partnership, it was the opportunity for the students to create their own partnership. So they had to go and scout and look for local businesses that were willing to get a free consultation to improve their sustainability performance. And as long as those local businesses were related to hospitality industry. This was an exercise that we created like that because some of the students were studying in the Milan campus and a few of them were studying in the Glan campus. So as we didn't have the opportunity to be at the same place, everybody, we designed this exercise for each student to go and start building up their network and creating their own consultation, let's say, skills, developing their own consultation skills. Students, once that they engage with one business, they had to go and analyze their facilities, really understand what were the components, equipments, and systems that were operating in this business, and try to come up with or identify the areas of improvement in terms of water, energy, waste management, or any sustainability aspect that they felt that the business needed to improve. At the end, the students had to propose solutions, normally to owners, because as we mentioned, there were local businesses. This is an example of the type of work that one of our students did. His name is Shreyas. And Shreyas was really interested in working with local cafes. So he came in contact with this local business in the proximity to Gland, in a city called Nyon, here in Switzerland. And he got in contact and get really close to the owner and explaining his drive into sustainability, why he was interested in working with him, and got to learn that it was a family business with a beautiful story cafe that only employ local people, and they had like a social aspect business. So he went in and started doing this exercise of analyze the facilities, to understand in terms of water management, what were the opportunities that this business had. It was very impressive, the work that he did, because even when it looked, as you can see here at the 2 slides on the right side, he developed this plan done by hand with colors and pictures and so. But it was a way for him to understand really what were the water systems and equipments and metering that were in place, to identify also what were the gaps in terms of water management, and to come up with potential suggestions or solutions that he will come up with. He will present to the owner after the analysis were done. At the end, he presented a very well elaborated report in terms of graphics and text that was presented to the owner, and he went even farther and start proposing specific equipments for the size and the location of the property. He actually took the time and developed a full plan on how to integrate this equipment into their operations, I was understood that at the very end, they were interested enough to continue the communication with the student after even the course was done. So again, this was an opportunity for students not only to implement their knowledge into real life cases, but also to create a relationship with business owners and how to address sustainability issues, especially with non-technical teams. Because unlike the first example that I show you, where the Mandarin Oriental had already a sustainability team in place with knowledge, technical capabilities, and resources available to implement the strategies, local businesses, as you know, tend to lack of this technical knowledge or resources to implement sustainability strategies. So for the students, it was really interesting to come face to face with the real a real scenario where the client, yes, is willing to do the best, but he or she doesn't know exactly how or when or how much it's going to cost or how will it be implemented. So this report, as I mentioned, was created by Shreyas, and I'm going to show you in the same academic project another example, which I thought it was very interesting as well. Very different way to approach. But it was Shivani, this student, that got in contact with a hotel in Geneva, in the city of Geneva. She came into the hotel, introduced herself, and started to present the project to the general manager. They were very interested in getting her on board and with this project. But Shivani, when she was like walking and getting the tour from all the properties, she got the attention of the restaurant. She was really interested in getting to know what were the operations of the restaurant. So she talked to the chef in charge, with the facility manager. He got in a few interviews, and she discovered that there was a little operational problem happening in the kitchen due to the location of the cold storage system. So she started asking her the questions of why is this happening in this hotel, specifically in this restaurant. And she got to learn that the facility was an ancient building, was placed in an ancient building that had a lot of historic value. So it was very difficult to accommodate a modern kitchen into this old building. So for me, and I'm telling you this because, or I'm sharing this with you because I think it's really interesting that when we apply sustainability strategies into businesses, we tend to think only on the management and operational side, but the facility in itself, the building, the built structure where our businesses are conducted, have to do a lot in terms of how the business operate and therefore how they implement their sustainability strategies. So again, she came in and started looking at the plans, and she created a whole diagram on how people move around the kitchen. It was no longer the interest in energy consumption or water, waste management or generation of waste, but actually what was the thing in the built environment that didn't support the operations at the best possible. So again, the approach for me and for the clients were really interested, because what we encourage normally in our courses is that students not only take the liberty to analyze by themselves, but also the opportunity for them to become creative in the way that they approach their academic projects. So again, Shivani developed an exceptional analysis on workflows and energy management within this small walk-in freezers and fridges. And she came up with a list of different strategies where she proposed how to better operate those kitchens while the team was involved in the design of the arrangements. She also developed a written report with specific recommendations that was highly received by the team in the Hotel d'Angleterre in Geneva. And the last example that I want to show you or share with you is about our last project that we have conducted. And this project came about last year with collaboration with the Kempinski hotels, in which its headquarters is based in Geneva. So I got in contact with Adrian Beltrametti, which is the Sustainability Committee team leader of Kempinski Group, but also the executive vice president of the group. So he is an exceptional young man involved in the sustainability of Kempinski, the sustainability strategy of Kempinski. And the assignment was to only work with their ESG report in 2021. They released this report late last year, and it was the first ESG report that the Kempinski Group has done since they are reporting their sustainability strategy. They used to have some environmental reporting or sustainability reporting before, but this is the first time that they have done the ESG report in designed through the environmental, social, and governance framework. So the idea was also to produce opportunities for improvement into reporting practices, and also present recommendations as a group. As I mentioned, this was a group assignment that students conducted, and they just delivered last week. So what they did was actually read the whole report, trying to understand what was not only the methodology, but the spirits and values that the Kempinski Group wants to put into their sustainability strategy. They had long consultations with Adrian and his team into trying to understand beyond the paper, what were the actually priorities, or what were the intentions behind not only the reporting, but the sustainability strategies that were happening in place in each of the 80 properties that Kempinski Group manages. Students came up with a research methodology, and they come up with 3 main components to address, and how to address this project. One of them was a model of communication, and I'm gonna take a little longer here to explain, because I think it was really, really interesting the approach that this student had. As I mentioned, this project was only based on the ESG report. So it was nothing to do with the operational or the management decisions. It was mostly how Kempinski was, let's say, using and taking advantage of that communication tool, which is the report, in terms to not only communicate, but actually implement those sustainability strategies with the properties in their different locations. How the managers at the local level were receiving that information, and also shareholders or clients even. So one of the students came up with or took notice that their communication was missing some parts, in his opinion, in terms of communicating impact, time frame, and outputs. So he developed a communication model to present those the way that Kempinski was presenting their sustainability achievements. But not only did it because he thought that it was a good idea to do it, but actually he conducted, or the group conducted, a poll within sustainability practitioners to try to understand what communication tool was, or what model of communication was better received by readers. So in the slide in the middle, as you see, there is a poll there with 2 different options. So without saying what were the main components on each options, they asked people what were the options that felt that communicate better or credible sustainability strategies. And it was very interesting because the way the results came up were not at all in favor of the way that Kempinski was communicating through their ESG report. And this group of students took notice of that and developed out of the results and sample model and how to communicate, introducing some aspects in the narrative that were very important in their opinion to actually portray not only the strategy, but actually the results that were presented, because they felt that Kempinski was having some achievements that were not being communicated properly. So again, for me, and I show you this, of course, this is not the full scope of the work, but I'm showing you this piece of work because I think it's very interesting the way that the students approach when they are given the liberty to analyze from their own perspectives and experiences. The second example that came up with this exercise was the way that Kempinski was presenting the data. In the opinion of our students, the way that Kempinski was presenting this data was not only lacking a little bit of graphic information that could support the delivery of the message. It was not that clear to them. So in this specific case, they created two different models and add the model that currently Kempinski has in its sustainability report. And not surprisingly, the way that was currently communicated was the least voted in these polls. So they propose a framework on how to, or an idea on how to, in this specific example, how to integrate or align the SDG goals into their strategies. Before, if you can see, this is the option number 1 in the slide in the middle. They present their alignment to SDG just by showing the icon of the SDG, but not explaining really, or not creating any graphic visualization on how those activities that they are presenting are interlinked with the SDG or contribute the better with SDGs. So students came up with these proposals and the graphic proposal on how Kempinski could showcase their contributions to SDGs. They come up with this, obviously, this written document that very complete document with many different strategies, and they actually went beyond the original scope of the work, and presenting some extra conclusions or closing notes, how they call them, but there were further thoughts on how to improve in general their way that they were communicating through their ESG report. The document was sent to Kempinski. The presentation was in front of them, in front of the team, actually. 3 members of the sustainability global team, and it was really interesting. We spent 2 hours last week discussing and presenting, and so students could interact with high-level officials or high-level committee members of a global corporation as Kempinski is. So as I mentioned, this project was just delivered last week. Yeah, we were really happy with the outcomes of this. Now, I'm presenting you again the same slide with a little modifications from the beginning. Just to summarize that the project objectives have also some hidden students' impact. We want our students to not only learn the theoretical part, as I mentioned, but also to gain some skills, some soft skills that are important for their future career. in terms of experiencing from real life projects, where this exercise provide and have provide actually for our students a consultancy portfolio, example of work that they can portray in their portfolio or in their CVs when getting a job or their next step in their career. We have students that have presented a few of the exercises that I show you as samples from what are they capable of doing, and that obviously puts them in a different position towards the companies that they want to engage to. Also, exposure and networking. Well, they are real players in the hospitality industry or in the sustainability sphere at the most. We are exposing our students with, well, the top of the top in their fields. We are looking, in my case, for example, where I teach in the hospitality program, with the top players in the hospitality industry, the main players in their field. But also, when we say that we want to create real impact by learning, we are actually promoting that students engage with partners that create a network and expand their network to other players in the field that they could benefit from and they could take advantage of, in terms of not only connecting through this academic, but what we want also is for students to create long-lasting relationships and confidence also to go and knock on the doors and present themselves and their knowledge towards real cases scenarios. So I'm going to leave it like that. I want to thank you for listening to this presentation and for giving me the opportunity to present to you these 3 examples that I feel really proud of. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this presentation. So to wrap up a bit of everything, if there's any question, feel free. So I see there's already a few questions in the Q&A section that we can go through. But if there's any question or any comments, feel free to share them and we'll address them. The first question I would have is actually regarding, I think, from the student side. You were explaining how some students literally knocked on the door of some of these businesses. So in the case of, well, Switzerland or Italy in general, but Switzerland in that case in particular that you've developed, how ready would you say businesses are to welcome students to work on sustainability projects?
Very good question. Yes, it's not always the case that businesses are open to address the sustainability performance. And it's less the case when it's a student that presents themselves as the experts, right? But those are kind of the situations where that we always face, even as professionals. So yes, there is a number of businesses that are not interested in this, but I gotta say that is the least. In my experience from my students, in general, the experience has been positive and they are open. What is important for us as professors is to communicate to students that this is an academic exercise. There's no obligation in any shape or form for the business to do some modifications or any integration of new systems or equipment at all. So this is just a student consultation that could potentially provide some gainings for the businesses. So we conduct our students always to communicate with the benefits that this engaging with the students in this academic exercise could bring to the businesses, instead of the challenges that the businesses could face while trying to implement those strategies. When we approach businesses like that, offering something that could potentially benefit them, it's less likely that they refuse, And it's most likely that they get interested at the end to actually implement the strategies. And we have seen them a couple of times in the examples that I show you. For example, in this cafe in Nyon, the client was at the beginning was not really engaged, but he allowed the student to come in. And at the end, he was asking questions like, what is that type of system? How much it will cost? What modification do I have to do in the building to integrate that system? And our student was actually so engaged that went beyond, as I mentioned, beyond the scope of the project and propose a system and bring in not only a budget and all the characteristics that they need to be implemented in the building. So the business owner could understand better what the scope of that strategy. So just to summarize the answer, yes, it's difficult, but we support our students to communicate confidently with businesses so they can engage better. And the result in general has been positive.
Okay, perfect. I have a second one, which is, well, most of what you've been explaining is obviously the experience from the on-campus student. And there's one question that was asking more on the project implementation with businesses. How would it take place in the case of online students? Well, definitely it's different.
Yeah, but that's a good question as well, because it was one of the questions that I asked myself at the beginning when I started the online courses as well. But we follow the same strategy that we did with the example that I show you with local businesses. We encourage students to go in their locations, no matter where they are based, and try to engage with a local business. And I have to say, at least, I don't know, in my experience, half of the students already come into the course with some partner in mind. They identify from the beginning. They say, whether it's the company that they're working now, whether it's the family business that they or a family member owns, or is the business that is next to their house, where they have a close relationship with. So again, with my online students, what I do is try to encourage them to go and knock on the doors for those who they feel the closer, the most close, right? So people that they know it's easier to engage. But if it's the case that they are not close to any business owner, then I encourage them to go and knock on the doors. One important aspect is present to school. SUMAS has a credibility and a weight that students need to take advantage of. So when conducting those exercise, but even when you graduate and you present that you come from a school like SUMAS, it has a weight in the industry that you can take advantage of. So when you say that you want to conduct an academic exercise based on your studies at SUMAS, it's seen in a different way because also SUMAS can provide, or the professors can provide also with a detailed scope and or reference if it's needed. It has never been the case that I've been requested a letter for the project, because mostly students, even though they have at the beginning hesitations or doubt, it's not those doubts come mostly because they don't feel that their skills in communicating are strong enough. For me, it is really important to deliver to students not only the technical knowledge, but the confidence to go and present those topics to people, as I mentioned, that it's not their strong field of work.
Okay. I have a kind of a follow-up question to the answer you were giving, I guess. On the takeaways, so maybe you've explained some of the takeaways from the industry, from the companies that we've partnered with. but from the students, because you were explaining a bit on the confidence, showing confidence in presenting yourself and what you can actually do for these businesses. Would you put any other takeaways from the students that you've heard from feedback or comments that your student had in concluding this actual project?
Yes. Well, I could say many because yeah, those type of exercises have become really well, I don't want to brag too much about this, but I'm currently having a couple of students that came into my class thanks to these projects that we conducted last year. So for me, that is a sign, not of the professor, but the project was interesting enough for the students to suggest to their colleagues coming into these courses. So when this semester started and I had a couple of students and I asked them, why did they choose to come into this course? The first thing they mentioned was because the projects that we conducted through this course were interesting, really, really interesting. So for me, that's one of the things that students get, real interest in the projects, in the industry, in the topics, in engaging. And the second thing I would say that goes beyond the academic sphere is the relationships that they create with key players. As I mentioned, one of the students from the Mandarin Oriental project works now for the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. And the student from the Hotel d'Angleterre and the local businesses consultation exercise that we did now works also in Geneva and had to refuse a job opportunity with one of the partners because she had another option, a better option that she thought it could be. So for me, as I always say, these opportunities, academic opportunities, are for students to create their journey into sustainability, known from zero. So SUMAS, for me, and the courses are a platform that can springboard their career into sustainability with a better position because of the kind of projects that we conduct and the relationships that we create with industry leaders and students. As I see it, is that we at SUMAS are facilitators of these journeys. We provide the technical knowledge, but we also provide the networks and the resources for students to thrive in their sustainability journey.
Perfect. Don't see any other question for the time, so I guess we'll finish on that. Thank you very much, Eduardo, again, for your help and insight on this aspect. For everyone attending or everyone actually watching this webinar afterwards, feel free to reach out to me or my colleague where you've been in touch, and we'll be happy to discuss a bit further on the program and eventual admission process if you're interested. Once again, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Hope to see you soon. Thanks again, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.